All right, welcome back to another episode of We All Speak in Poems. Today we've got a very special guest, Jerome Alexander, aka Message to Bears. In this episode, we're chatting about his newest track, Hillside Embers, his albums Maps and Folding Leaves, how Message to Bears has evolved over the years, having his music in video games such as Life is Strange, and much more. I hope you enjoy it. All right, so I just wanted to hop right in. Like, you came out with your newest song with the Kids in the Cosmos last week. How's that release going so far? Is it going pretty good?
Yeah, it's going good. It's always a funny feeling. I mean, basically, you have a big lead up to a release, typically, wouldn't you? Once it's mastered, and then there's like at least 4 or 5 weeks, typically. I know some people like to put something out super quick, but that 6 weeks felt like really long.
Yeah.
And it's a really nice feeling once it's out. It's always hard to gauge how something is received by others, but yeah, people seem to like it, for sure.
For sure.
But it just feels like sometimes as soon as you put out a new song, it's like it dies down like super quick, and then it's like back to need to make something new.
Yeah,
Like after just a few days, it's like, okay, it's done now.
exactly.
Yeah.
I don't know how you feel, but like I have sort of a gauge for new songs, and that's pretty much as long as it hits 10,000 plays on Spotify or whatever. Like, I'm pretty happy with that. I like the 5
Yeah,
digits
true. Yeah.
and the way it looks. I don't know if you
Yeah.
have anything like that, like to gauge success of a track, or whether you even pay attention to it or not.
I do, because of the Spotify app where you see in
Yeah.
real time.
Yeah.
It's quite addictive. So
Mm-hmm.
on release day, it's really hard not to just be like staring at that.
Yeah.
Which is a nice feeling, knowing that someone's listening to it like right then and there, which is super cool.
For sure.
But yeah, I have a similar thing where like once it reaches like 10,000, I'm like, okay, cool.
Yeah.
I'm happy to
Enough
let
people have
this
heard
go.
it, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
How did the track come about? Like, I know that you and the Kids in the Cosmos have worked together a couple times in the past, right?
Yeah. He's actually quite an old friend at this
Oh,
point.
okay.
We grew up in the same city in Bristol, but we didn't really meet until we were adults and both working on a film score together. 'Cause we had mutual friends growing up, and so we did that. That was about almost 10 years ago.
Oh, wow.
And since then, we've done another project together called HIN, which we've released an EP and a single.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, we've known each other a long time, and we try and make music together whenever we can, basically.
For
Yeah.
sure. How did you know that this song was going to be a collaboration between like Message to Bears and Kids in the Cosmos instead of putting it out under HIN?
Good question. Part of it, I think, is to do with the HIN stuff didn't really get a lot of traction, and I think a part of that is because it was just a brand new name, with no real connection explicitly to our other projects, and so we decided to put a track together out called All This Time under both our names, and that did just like exponentially better,
Yeah.
in terms of listeners and numbers and people actually hearing it. So we thought this is probably a better way of releasing music. Obviously, it's not all about the numbers, but it's a little bit sad when something doesn't get heard, and you wish it did.
Mm-hmm.
So it's partly that, and also partly to do with just for me personally, it's like how the track sounds. So if it was really, really far removed from both our styles, I wouldn't want to put it under those names. I'd use HIN.
Mm-hmm.
So there needs to be some sort of consistency there, I think, anyway, to bear using the same name as Message to Bears. Yeah.
So I didn't even know about this collaboration that you guys had, HIN.
Yeah, exactly. That's the
yeah, good point.
Yeah.
Is it is it this style, or are you guys going for like a more If you could explain it a bit.
Yeah,
'Cause I'm going to check it
it's
out after this, but
yeah, dude. Yeah, I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. It's definitely different. It's I don't know. Some of it sound. I've listened to some of it recently, and I'm like, well, this actually sounds quite insane. Some of it, like some of the ideas. So, I mean, I'd probably say it's more electronic and maybe poppy in some ways in terms of melody and stuff.
okay.
Although it's quite experimental in some like choices of sounds and textures, but it to me it almost sounds a bit more like futuristic,
Okay.
and it's more intense. I'd say in some ways. Um, there's very little acoustic instrumentation on it. It's more like synth based and some electric guitars, um, and very very processed vocals.
Sick.
Yeah, check it out. Yeah, my favorite track's probably called the Lower Heat,
Okay.
and it's got a pretty wild music video as well. So yeah, see what you think about that, man.
For sure. Yeah, I can't wait to check that out. Well, so I wanted to also get into like, early Message to Bears, how it came about and all this stuff. But
Mm.
yesterday when I did a call out for questions for you, one of the fan questions was a fairly simple one. I'm sure that you've talked about a lot in the past, but I actually don't know the answer to it either. And it's, where did Message to Bears come from? Like the name.
Oh, the name.
Yeah.
Basically, I don't. It's not an amazing story, but basically, I was already making music, and I was looking for a name, but I didn't have anything, and I was browsing the Sigur Rós message board
Okay.
online, and I saw a discussion title called "Message to Bears," and I thought, oh, that sounds like a sick band. I thought it was like some music discussion, so I clicked on it, um, and it was nothing to do with music or a band or anything. It was just something very random. But I thought, oh, that sounds like I was just attracted to that name for some reason, and
Yeah.
so I just took it. I just took it on as my own.
That's actually really cool
Do you
sort
reckon?
of
Is it
origin for
okay?
sure. Yeah, it
Yeah.
definitely is.
Okay. Cool.
It
Yeah.
reminds me of do you know Good Weather for an Airstrike?
Yeah, I do. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, he's in the UK as well, I think.
He is. Yeah.
I think that's just translated Icelandic lyrics from a Sigur Rós song.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, so it's kind of everything in this genre revolves around Sigur Rós, to be honest. So
For sure. For
I'm not
sure.
really surprised.
No.
But before Message to Bears, you said you were playing music and stuff. Like, what did that look like? Were you in bands and stuff?
Yeah, I was actually a drummer.
Oh, sick. Me too.
Oh yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I was playing in sort of like indie-ish rock kind of bands.
hmm
Nothing too serious. This was when I was probably like 15, 16 years old, and yeah, I gigged a bit like locally, and on the side I was just kind of like trying to teach myself guitar,
Okay.
basically. But yeah, drums was the only thing that I've had like lessons in, like music lessons of. So that was like my main instrument or my only instrument for a long time.
hmm
Um, and then yeah, when that like disbanded for various reasons, I didn't really have any other bands between the ages of probably like 18, and I guess I started Message to Bears in my 20s. So yeah, nothing major before Message to Bears.
True.
Yeah.
It's really interesting. It sounds kind of like, the way that I came up to, in my teens playing drums. I was never in a band or anything. I hated working with people, which is, a nice reason to be a solo artist. But
Yeah.
yeah, and then once I started experimenting with other instruments, it sort of sparked something in me to write instead of just like playing other people's songs on drums. Like there was something about drums where I felt like I was really good at it, but I didn't have the creativity to write interesting parts. Whereas, everything was so open and free when I started playing guitar and piano and messing around with synths too.
Yeah.
Is that kind of the same thing for you? Like playing guitar, you kind of found songwriting was just part of it, right?
Yeah, for sure. And in my early recordings, I didn't even use the drums at all. I still don't really use drum kit. I use
Yeah.
like samples and program drums. Yeah, very different experiences for me. playing those two instruments.
For sure.
Yeah.
So early Message to Bears, were you like uploading it onto MySpace and stuff? How were you sort of circling it around? Were you seeing success with that first EP and stuff, or?
Yeah, I think it probably was MySpace at that time. I don't know what other platforms there were around. This would have been 2005 or six, probably, when I first uploaded EP1, while I was first writing that sort of music.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's a long time ago. Yeah, that's really wild. So yeah, I think it was probably MySpace. I think there was another similar site or two. They all seem to have their own sort of like things that genres of music that seemed specifically based. Like there was like one called SoundClick, I think, and I think it was just generally hip hop beats.
Okay.
Or there was one called Pure Volume. I found just punk bands on there. But yeah, so MySpace was probably the main one. I think it was probably through that one that I found other like ambient bands as well. And made not really proper connections, but like a little bit. I remember messaging, do you know Bibio?
Yeah.
I messaged Bibio on MySpace a long time ago, and he replied. I was like, "Oh, this is cool." This was back when he was making more acoustic sort of music. So yeah, and there was like a sort of ambient post-rock message board again, and I posted some of my music on there, trying to get some feedback and stuff, and people seemed to really like it. And so it gave me a bit of confidence to continue with what I was doing.
For sure. It sounds like me. As I came up, I was sort of everything was online. Message boards like you're saying, and SoundCloud and MySpace. And it sounds like you were the same. Is that because people in your real life just didn't care about post rock ambient music?
Yeah, exactly.
And the stuff you were doing, or you were just trying to find a community there?
Yeah, I don't think I really knew. Maybe I knew one or two people who were into that kind of music, but yeah, I think there's also probably an element of it's kind of easier to share stuff with strangers. Feel like you're more likely to get honest feedback that way. And it just seemed, yeah, I don't know, back then, maybe still now, it just seemed like the way to just put something out there and see what the response is without too much pressure, basically. Yeah.
I 100% get that. And even it's the same thing now, right? Like I still don't show many people in real life my music, at all, actually.
Yeah. Same.
Unless I'm coming out with like a record, I'll give it to my family, but other than that, I'm not sharing what I do every day.
No.
That's really interesting. And it seems like a lot of people in sort of this electronic leaning field, it's the same thing. Like I watched a thing on James Blake recently, and it was the exact same thing for him. He was just sharing his music on message boards and stuff, mostly like dubstep stuff and all that. But it's interesting how we all sort of go that route. And even with the drummer thing, a lot of the ambient artists I talked to started off as drummers. It's really, really cool, actually.
That's really interesting. I wonder why that is.
Yeah, I don't know. Especially, so focused on rhythm. And then you get into something that's a lot less rhythmic.
Yeah.
Especially in ambient and drone. But you mentioned the term like ambient band. Is that what you consider yourself? Like ambient, post-rock, experimental, all of it?
I guess, I mean, I'd say probably influenced by all of the above. Yeah, if someone asks me just kind of randomly, not wanting too much detail, but like what kind of music I make, I probably would say ambient, just because it's easier. But if they seem like they're actually genuinely interested, then maybe I'll give some more detail, and like I'll throw in a few other words like electronica, or it depends also what record or what song. Some stuff I would call like ambient folk.
Yes.
Anything with an acoustic guitar, I'd say ambient folk or folktronica.
Oh, folktronica, that's cool.
Yeah, you heard that one. But other stuff just wouldn't fit those titles. But yeah, I don't really think about it too much.
Yeah. Huh, that's interesting. As you were coming up and, sort of SoundCloud got introduced and Bandcamp got introduced and even
Mm.
YouTube and Spotify, are you quick to hop on new sort of I want to call them technologies, but for lack of a better term, technologies. Um,
Mm.
like were you uploading stuff to Spotify as soon as you could kind of thing?
Yeah, I was actually.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, as soon as I found a distributor who could do that, um, I was just like immediately. Yeah. And probably same with Bandcamp. But I don't really feel like that now. Like if some other similar technology was available, I wouldn't be so quick. I feel quite settled with where stuff is at the moment. But I definitely used to feel that way. Yeah.
For sure. I mean, yeah, so getting into that a little bit, I wanted to ask you as well. Like it seems like from 2009 to 2016, it seemed like you were really pushing hard to release music consistently, and then since 2016 it's sort of fallen off a bit. But I'm actually looking at
Mm.
when your albums came out now, and it seems to be always like a 2 to 3 year cycle for you.
Yeah, that seemed to be the common time frame for sure.
For
Just
sure.
it felt like just felt comfortable. Really, I wasn't pushing myself to release anything in any specific time. That just seemed to work out for me. And I think around that time, I was really discovering like the beauty of making music. It was like a lot of fun, learning a lot, um, and I feel like maybe after that, I don't know, I wasn't so deep into experimentation for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Maybe because not that I'd learned everything, but like all the basic stuff that was new and exciting was kind of like done. Like in terms of like looping ideas and different effects processes.
Yeah.
And once I'd done that, it felt a bit trickier, or not trickier, but it took a longer time to delve into deeper um, knowledge of new ways of working. Maybe um, it became a lot more. I don't know. I didn't want to just repeat myself, I guess,
Yeah.
and it took a little while to evolve some new processes, maybe. Um,
Does that also have to do with like the business side of it as well? Did you feel that at all of like you just don't want to promote another album or something like some because it gets
mm,
repetitive and monotonous, at least for me.
yeah.
Um, and keeps me from releasing music a lot of the time.
Mm,
Just the thought of like, oh my god, I have to do this again. Like the whole everything
yeah.
outside of actually the music part. You know.
Mm, yeah. I feel quite strongly about that, but it's maybe for me a bit more on the side of the I don't want to bombard a listener with
Ah.
with my music or my name or me like too much because I don't know. Personally, I'm just thinking about how I like to consume music, and it's if I see someone releasing music all the time, I just
Mm-hmm.
don't feel drawn to it. I feel like I'm much more excited if I haven't heard anything from someone in like a few years, and then they just drop an album. I'm just like really hyped to dive in. Whereas
Yeah.
if they're releasing a single every 5 6 weeks for like 2 years, I'm just not interested, and I was worried about that happening to me.
Yeah.
But also, I struggle probably to write music that quickly as well, so it's a bit of a combination.
For sure. Yeah. It's hard to keep that sort of quality. And it sucks that I talk about it a lot on the podcast. Like, we live in this time where Spotify and the algorithms really do um, benefit from you releasing music every 4 to 6 weeks,
Yeah.
like forever. That's what they want. And it's like,
Mm.
how are we supposed to do this? Like, I could write a song every 4 to 6 weeks, but it might not be great,
Well, that's it. Yeah, I wouldn't. Yeah, there's the
you know?
worry of what's the old quality over quantity sort of dilemma, isn't it? Um,
Yeah.
I'd rather put something out that I'm proud of less frequently
Yeah.
um, than just churning out stuff. And also, I feel like writing music is quite exhausting, like mentally. And I don't. I know some people can just write great music just over and over and over again quickly, but I can't.
So do you
Yeah.
find that you're typically like waiting for that inspiration to even start writing?
Not not necessarily waiting. Like I
Okay.
do I do try writing a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Like in my phone, in my voice note, there's like 70 ideas, which are all like guitar riffs or little vocal melodies. And that's after I cut them down from like stuff that was really awful. And I listen through them, and it's none of, I don't think hardly any of it's worth continuing with.
Yeah.
So I'll yeah, it's not like I'm not trying, or it's not like I'm waiting to even start. I think the key is knowing when something is worth continuing with,
Yeah.
um, rather than being able to just write a great piece of music at the right time. I think it's about writing a lot of awful music, and then finding what's
Yeah.
worth exploring further within that. I think that's the difficult thing.
100%. 100%. Yeah, I totally agree with that too. Because for me, it's kind of like I'll find that I haven't written music or even played instruments in 3 months.
Hmm.
And then that's when I sort of force myself. But I personally do wait for that inspiration. Like watching a movie will sometimes inspire me and stuff like that. Or you'll hear a score and you're like, oh my God.
Mm.
Um, but it happens so infrequently nowadays. It kind of sucks.
Yeah, I mean, what I do typically nowadays is I'll sit down at the guitar or piano and just play for the sake of playing. I'm not trying
Mhm.
to write anything particularly. I'm just trying to inspire myself, as I think, as opposed to waiting for inspiration. And yeah, I try not to think, okay, I'm going to sit down, I'm going to write something.
That's very. I feel like that's a very smart and like healthy thing to do, and something I
Mm.
need to sort of work on. Because
Mm.
I do sit down at the piano, but I always play stuff that I don't know if you get this, but I get in my head about what is like an Alaskan tape sound. But
Hmm.
then I'll play
Yeah.
something that's not Alaskan tapes, and I go, well, what's the point in playing this? You know what I'm saying?
Mm.
So I think separating myself from writing music is like the thing that I personally need to do. I was reading one of your interviews on Music Radar, and an instrument that
Mm.
I gravitate towards a lot and I love is the harmonium. And I saw that you
Mm.
had that harmonium, at least that you mentioned. I don't know if you still have it. It was a
Yeah.
long time ago.
Yeah. Yeah. I've got two actually.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, the one you're referring to, yeah, it's a beautiful object.
For sure. It's the one
Yeah.
it's one of the ones that are like compact, but it has the pedals still, right?
Yeah, right. So I used to have one of the more traditional Indian ones that you'd
Yeah.
pump the bellows with your one of your hands. Um, but I always wanted one that you could pump the air with your feet, so you could use both hands. Yeah.
I'm so jealous because I've
Mm.
the Indian one, and I've been looking at getting some to pump with your feet, and my God, are they expensive?
Right. Yeah.
So I think like, oh man, that's one of the instruments that I wish I had
Mm.
but it's one of the ones that I won't splurge money on because I'll use it for 3 tracks and then just
Yeah.
love the fact that I have it, and not really use it.
Yeah.
But do you find that you're writing with the harmonium a lot?
Um, no. Yeah, my first Indian one I did, it is on a few tracks, a few early tracks. Um, but the foot bellow one I haven't really, I'm not sure if it's even made it onto a track or a Message to Bears track anyway. Um, the thing is it's very like it's rickety.
Oh,
It like
okay.
it feels so fragile. I feel like it's gonna fall apart kind of
Yeah.
any second. So I more have it as just a nice statement piece, an object to look at the moment. Because it used to be used for, well, I don't know specifically this one, but probably because they often were for like missionaries, traveling around spreading the word of God or something like that.
Yeah.
Don't really know how it's not fallen apart yet. The one that I've got, because
Yeah, for
it
sure.
feels really fragile, and I think it must be well over 100 or maybe even 200 years old.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, well, that's how it was advertised anyway.
Yeah.
When I bid on it at I think it was a eBay
Yeah.
or another online auction. Yeah.
Such a beautiful instrument, though. I love it so much, and like it always reminds me of everything Icelandic. And then also Niels Fromm did that song. I don't even remember what it was called now, but it was all harmonium, I think, and it was like super reverbed. So nice. And I've wanted to make a track like that for so long.
Yeah.
Do you find that you're like a gearhead at all, though? Do you find that gear sort of inspires you to write?
What sort of gear? Do you talk like effects and stuff, or instruments, or
Anything, both.
anything? Both.
Yeah.
I feel like I sort of am, and I'm not. I'm definitely like I can be swayed by a glitzy marketing campaign for like a new granular pedal or something. I'm like, oh my god, I need that. I definitely need that. But deep inside, I know I don't need that, and I try to remind myself that. But yeah, I definitely I like looking at and reading about new pieces of gear that I feel like could be interesting to me. But I try not to get too caught up on it. And I'm trying to like sell stuff that I'm not using.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Yeah, because I've bought some stuff and then I've got zero use out of it. Not that it's not good, it just doesn't work for my workflow, or you just don't gel with a certain piece of equipment.
Story of my life.
Really, yeah.
Yeah. Like I remember getting so excited about a bunch of gear, like the OP1. I just sold my OP1.
Did you? Wow. Okay.
I was so excited about it. I made a couple videos and but I found that was all it was for, was like these pretend live things to do.
Yeah.
I never actually used it in the Alaskan Tape songs, and that's what I find with a lot of gear that I am drawn towards, is like, oh, how can I play live? And I don't play live. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like even I just picked up a Tasty Chips GR1, which is a granular synth, and it's so good. Like
nice.
This is not one of these instruments. But really it's just like the VST Mangle. So the only place it'll really come in handy is if I really want that tactile feel, or if I'm playing live. So it's one of those things, and tends to be pretty common. Even with the guitar pedals and stuff, I'll end up just using Guitar Rig because it's easier, But yeah.
Yeah, I try, if I can achieve something with software plugins, instead of spending a load of money on a piece of hardware, then I'll do that. Or I try to do that. It's the audio world, I guess, with probably most other sort of creative industries, when they promote products, it's like, I guess it's any sort of marketing, you feel that this will really add something to your creative process, and quite often once you sit down with that piece of equipment, it's not necessarily the case. But yeah, I do like gear for sure. It's fun to explore.
It's one of those tough things too, because gear just seems to be getting more and more complicated. Like
that's a main issue for me actually.
Yeah, dip switches and internal settings and stuff, and I'm just like, just give me a reverb, please.
Yeah, that's the thing. I'm not like super technical with that stuff, so even with the OP1, if I don't use it for 2 or 3 weeks, I basically forget how to use it.
That was my problem. Exactly.
Really? Wow.
Yeah.
I know some people find it super intuitive. Maybe it is, but same with Chase Bliss pedals actually. I need to, like, if I haven't used it for a while, I need to look up a tutorial, even though I've had it for like years.
Exactly.
It's just my brain, I think. I feel more naturally just sitting at a guitar or a piano.
For sure. Yeah.
But I love tweaking like guitar pedals and stuff. Like tactile element is awesome for sure.
With all that being said, are you sitting on Message to Bear's music right now, sort of planning a new album or anything?
Yeah, I am. I've probably got like 4 tracks that are almost ready at the moment. I moved house last year, and I think it slowed down my creativity, because moving is an ordeal, what can be, and my house needed a lot of work, so it took me a while to get set up, and it's only kind of fairly recently that I'm diving back into making music regularly. So
nice.
Yeah, I'm excited to get a new album ready, because it has been a long time. A new solo record been since 2019, 19, I think.
19, yeah. 4 years. Jesus, I could
It's 4 years.
not imagine waiting that long.
Yeah, I think because I have done a lot of collaborations and stuff in that time. It doesn't feel like that, but
Mhm.
it is a long time, and yeah, I'm excited to get something finished and out there.
Do you have a sort of direction that you're leaning forward? Is it more acoustic guitar, less acoustic guitar, more ambient?
Currently, I'm trying to like scale things down a little bit. So my last releases, I feel, got quite expansive, like sonically, like lots of big, wide, crazy drones, and just like a sense of large space. I don't really know how else to describe it. And I want to hopefully make things a bit more intimate and vulnerable.
Nice.
So maybe more acoustic instrumentation. Um, Maybe like lean back towards the earlier stuff. That's what I'm thinking anyway. Yeah. I try not to have a direction in mind because it never seems to go in that direction. So,
For sure.
um, but that seems to be where things are going currently, at the moment.
Nice.
Um, yeah.
I can't wait for that. I can't wait to hear new solo music, like
Mm.
as great as the collaborations are, there's something really like pure about, your solo work. It's so good.
Oh, thanks,
Um,
man. Yeah, I think it's super important to have the solo stuff. Yeah, collaborating is great for many reasons, but it doesn't like hit the same for me.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I wanted to get into some of your solo work, starting with Folding Leaves. I have a couple
Hmm.
questions.
Yeah,
So,
sure.
like the songwriting process while you were writing Folding Leaves, like,
Mm.
and I want to get into Maps as well. And since those two albums came out so close together, like, do you hold them in the same like sort of breath? Like, do you see them sort of as the same
Mm.
thing, an extension of each other?
Yeah, I sort of do. I've never really thought about it like that, but I do kind of hold them in the same breath. Like when I look back at that era, I feel like that was almost a different person,
Mm-hmm.
um, to now. I don't know if that's just a sense of time because it's been such a long time, or something else. But um, so when I look back at those, I look at them really fondly, and I definitely put them together, for some reason. Maybe it's just that they were done within, a certain amount of time.
Weird question as well, but do you see them as your sort of successful albums
Mm.
in a way? Like, because obviously, like, um, both the songs that are sort of your biggest songs right now are Mountains and You Are a Memory, and they both come from those two albums.
Yeah,
I don't know if you look at things that way in like the same way that I do.
yeah, I think I do. Yeah, I do feel that way. Yeah, there's no denying that they are, I'd say, considerably more popular than anything else I've ever done. Um, but a lot of that is to do with even, I mean, for Maps, that could probably all be pointed down to one song, You Are a Memory.
True.
Um, and Folding Leaves, mostly Mountains. So yeah, I'm super proud of those albums. And yeah, if I could make anything else like half as successful, then I'd be like super happy.
For
Yeah.
sure. For sure. But yeah, getting into the songwriting process of Folding Leaves, do you remember writing these songs? Do you remember writing um,
Mm.
any of it, or is it sort of like something that came so smoothly and freely?
I do have some specific memories. I remember one song was actually gonna maybe be on the previous album,
Mm.
Departures. Um, it was finished by the time I'd finished Departures, but it was just a different feel. Um, so I kept that, before working on Folding Leaves. And yeah, I remember a lot of it. I was working in an office. I was like really unhappy in an office job. I didn't know what I was doing,
Oh
and
well.
it was I just wanted to be making music. So I brought in my own computer, I brought my own laptop. I brought into work because there weren't enough computers to use, and so I was basically secretly working on my own music. I had like headphones on, so I was just like, I was supposed to be working, but I was actually just like mixing tracks and stuff,
Oh, wow.
like on the sly, hoping no one could see my screen. Um, so I remember that, and I remember I had like a big writing block period, where I don't know how many tracks I'd had, but I was really struggling to make any more. And I remember the evening that I wrote Mountains just like came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
I was just like sitting on the couch, um, experimenting with a fairly new tune, like open tuning, and I was just not even thinking. I was just playing. I thought, okay, that's nice. Immediately ran into my bedroom to record it, um, and then I think that same night I recorded the very simple drums and the vocals, and my I think my housemate upstairs like messaged me to like shut up because it was getting quite late, and I'm like not screaming, but I'm like shouting these vocals.
Yeah.
So he was like, "Can you shut up?" But then he messaged again saying, "It sounds good though."
Really? That's so
Yeah,
good.
yeah. I was like, "Okay, cool." So that was a moment that I definitely remember. But yeah, it was such a long time ago.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like the vocals on these two albums, they're repetitive and kind of chanty a bit.
Mm.
Um, when did you sort of start writing like that? Because that's the way that I sort of write when there is lyrics in my songs. It's sort of
Yeah.
just like a verse, maybe not even a verse, but just repeated over the whole song.
Mm.
Do you remember anything of like the inspiration behind that?
Well, I guess because my very first stuff was completely instrumental, and then Departures was the first time there were any vocals, and it was just like wordless oohs and ahs.
Mm-hmm.
And so for Folding Leaves, I guess it was just a natural evolution of that, going from no vocals to like vocals without words, and then to vocals with very minimal words.
I
Um,
see.
and I guess the repetition, all of my music has kind of been based around loops and repeated melodies and that sort of thing. So I guess I wasn't thinking of vocals as anything really separate from the other instruments. So I just had the same concept basically. I thought they're just going to repeat, in a sort of meditative sort of way.
For sure.
And part of it's probably that writing lyrics I find incredibly difficult. So the least amount of lyrics, the easier, the better.
For sure. Well, it works, man. Like it's been inspiring to me, and sometimes you hear a song and you can tell that it was inspired by a certain thing. And I'm not saying you're the only one who does repetitive vocals or chanty vocals, but sometimes you're like, this band listened to Mountains a lot, or
really?
or whatever. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Oh,
that's cool.
I have a question about one of my favorite tracks on this album is Everything Was Covered in Snow. And I think it's because it brings me back to a time when I was first discovering the band Mum and Icelandic music.
Nice,
it sounds a lot, it sounds like it was inspired by sort of those popular songs by Mum. Is that accurate?
For sure.
Okay.
Yeah, good ears. Yeah, I think particularly the drums. I've always loved their drums. So like delicate, and I don't know, there's something about it. So yeah, definitely a big influence. Yeah, Icelandic music has always transfixed me and amazed me. And they're a very cool band.
For sure. I love them so much. And I've tried to recreate their sort of percussion and drum thing so many times. I can't do it. I just can't figure it out. Never hits the right spot for me. But
yeah.
You've done it very well, and I'm very jealous about that.
Oh, I don't know about that, man.
But sorry.
I was just saying, I was trying to remember how I actually made those drums. Yeah, well, there's definitely field recordings in there. For the drums, I think I probably used. I'm gonna give away my drum secrets now. But like, there's a plugin called Effectrix by Sugar Bytes. It's sort of like glitch sort of plugin. I love it on drums, and it was definitely all over. It's probably all over every album, to be honest, but especially anything with drums.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Effectrix. Um,
Okay.
so I definitely would have used that to add some like bit crushing and little glitches.
I see. Yeah, because it's always those really little snippets that make
Mm,
the drums sort of come alive in an electronic way that I've never been able to sort of get. Because
mm,
to me, a lot of the time it sounds so intentional, but it is
yeah.
probably for everybody, you and people in Mum. Um,
Mm,
it's probably just running it through effects, glitchy
that's
sort of
probably,
things, hoping something comes out of it
yeah. I think it's quite likely. Yeah.
for sure. And going into maps, like obviously "You Are a Memory" is a huge song, and my God, the melody in the strings is
Mm,
crazy. Like there's a reason a lot of people attach themselves to it. Um, was that sort of intentional as well? Did you want to dive deeper into sort of strings and stuff in this album? Because it feels like this is your like
mm,
quartet album in a way.
does it?
To me,
Yeah,
maybe it's just because of "You Are a Memory."
it might be. I mean, there's probably strings on every. Could it be every song potentially?
Pretty much, yeah.
Um, yeah. Well, I mean, that's originally I wrote that on piano. Um, so those chords were piano chords
Wow,
initially,
really?
um, and yeah, after a while of listening through, I thought this could sound really nice on strings. So I switched it all over to strings, just like sampled strings initially, just to see how it worked. Um, and that it was obviously it wasn't perfect because they were like sampled strings, but it I knew that if I recorded this with a live string player, it would be what I would want basically.
Yeah,
Um,
magic.
yeah,
That's really interesting, man. You should come out with a piano version of "Your Memory." That
I've been
sounds so good. I'd never even considered it.
yeah, I actually, yeah, I did learn because I had to relearn the chords on the piano. So I've been trying to play it actually, and I was thinking about maybe doing some sort of piano day release. I think it's too late this year now,
Yeah,
but
it's too late this year.
maybe next year I'll put out a piano version.
Oh wow,
But I'm not a great pianist, to be honest.
makes it
But
good.
yeah,
When it's sloppy and kind of out of time.
yeah, 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 lots of character.
Yeah, exactly.
Um,
That'd be amazing, though, man.
mm,
I'm gonna be looking out for next piano day then, because
yeah,
I'm
if
gonna
I
hold you
start
to
it,
that
man, yeah, it will take me a while. If I start now, I'll have it ready.
for sure.
Yeah.
My other favorite track on Maps is "Rather Stay," because
Oh,
I really
really?
like the
Mm,
sort of vocoder vocals a lot,
mm.
and it sounds like a Bon Iver, James Blake kind of thing.
Yeah. Oh,
Did
nice.
you have this sort of inspiration behind it, or?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, no, I was definitely listening to James Blake at that time.
Hmm.
Yeah, you're probably the only person who's ever mentioned that to me.
Oh
Um,
wow.
yeah, because yeah, I don't even know if what the reception is to that track because it's pretty different to the rest of the album. But I've always liked it. Um, I like that it's kind of doing its own thing. If it was a quickly made track, I think it was. I remember it was raining outside, and there was some
Mm.
pressure to like to go out to I don't know, it's probably something fun, go out and have some fun with my friends, and I was like, I'd rather stay home,
Yeah.
and that was basically that song.
Wow.
Yeah, it
That's
was fun to
amazing.
do.
Yeah, because even the
Mm.
lyrics, like yeah, like you're saying, I'd rather stay home. That's the whole thing,
Mm. Yeah,
um,
yeah, yeah.
and that's just so perfect in the sense of like simplicity and just repetitive in the way it builds and stuff. Um,
Mm.
every time I hear a track like "Woods" by Bon Iver or any of the James Blake songs, um, I just want to make something like it, And
Yeah,
I'm working on one too, actually. I don't know if
really.
it'll ever
Oh,
come out, but I'd love to share it with you after
yeah,
this.
I'd love
But
to hear it. Yeah, same. I've definitely wanted to also to go back to that sort of thing, and yeah, like you said, do one that's like heavily like vocals, like affected vocals,
hmm
in that style. I feel like it's something that's probably a lot more difficult to pull off than it might sound when you hear something like that.
yeah,
Because I guess, yeah, you want to get all the harmonies just right, and yes, it's as much about the production as it is as the harmony.
Yeah, exactly. And
Yeah.
it's interesting that you mentioned that, because the way that you and James Blake do it, it's like it's not like typical harmonies, you know?
Mm.
It sounds like, at least from what I can hear, you're doing like, you know, seconds instead of fifths sometimes, and it's just like the way that I'm sure you're
Yeah.
playing the vocoder. But
Mm.
it adds so much, like it sounds fragile in a way.
Yeah.
You know, it's so
Yeah.
nice. I love it. So good. But
Thank you.
going from all of this into sort of your music being used for like Life is Strange and
Mm.
movies and stuff, like, did those sort of opportunities start happening from these two albums, or was it like way after?
Life is Strange was way after.
Mm-hmm.
It was probably I probably released the next album, which was like 2016.
Okay.
I think I could be wrong, but yeah, I feel like there was a big gap. Yeah, I can't remember any like big syncs like that at the time of those albums. It's
Mm-hmm.
definitely been a slow burner. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so cool though that your music was used in, like, I have never really played Life is Strange. I know what it is,
Mm.
but it is like a cultural thing, like it has a lot of
Mm.
diehard fans, and it's so cool to know
Yeah,
that you're a part of that.
for
And
sure.
people really, put this sort of meaning into your music, especially
Mm.
especially You Are a Memory, because it's like it's
Mm.
instrumental.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, it was Mountains on Life is Strange.
Yeah, but I'm sorry,
But
I'm also talking about how You Are a
generally.
Memory. Yeah.
Oh, cool. Yeah, yeah. Um, yeah, for sure. Yeah, it blows my mind, like how people have like connected with those songs in that context.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, especially Mountains, because I don't want to give any spoilers for the game, but the way it was used, I think, was pretty in a very brutal way.
Oh yeah.
Um, and it's if you look on like the official Mountains music video comments, a lot of them are just talking about how distressed the song makes them because of the way it was used in the computer game. It was a real
Oh
like it happened in, in a real crazy scene in the game, um, and people like get that feeling. I've read that people relive that feeling that they had when they're playing that game just from listening to the song, and
yeah.
sometimes they can't finish the song because
Oh
it's
wow.
it's quite intense. Um, but yeah, so that's pretty crazy for sure.
For sure. I'm gonna have to play it just to hear the moment, because I don't know what moment you're even talking about.
Mm. Yeah, give it a go, man. It seems like a great. I don't know much about that sort of computer game, but it seems really cool that it's like episodic.
Yeah,
Um, if it's more like almost like a TV series or something.
I wouldn't be
Um,
surprised if it was going to be adapted in like the next couple of
oh,
years.
yeah, for sure,
Yeah.
for sure.
Hopefully they'll
Yeah.
have the same soundtrack to get you a nice little payday.
Man, I think that would be fantastic. Yeah, that would be good.
It wouldn't make sense as not to do that. I mean, they did that with The Last of Us. They use the
Oh
same
yeah.
soundtrack, I think.
Mm.
Um,
Yeah.
at least from what I know. Um,
Mm.
but yeah, sort of before we wrap it up,
Mm.
I want to talk about Patreon a little bit and how that's going for you.
Mm. Yeah, sure.
Having fun with it?
Um, yeah. I mean, maybe I wouldn't use the word fun yet. It's early days. I've already got a few people signed up, which is amazing because there's not much content there yet because
Mm-hmm.
it's so new. But it is quite exciting. I feel like the pressure to put stuff on there as a little bit, but also don't want to bombard people with stuff. Again,
Mm-hmm.
like
Yeah.
we were talking about earlier. Um, but I think it's cool. I'm definitely gonna stick with it for a while and see how it goes. See if people are enjoying being a part of it. Yeah, I'm looking forward to putting on some some more like studio based stuff, like little clips of processing audio and song ideas and that sort of thing.
Sick.
But yeah, it's definitely like a bit of an experiment currently,
Mhm.
and I'll hopefully over time I'll find out what works for me and what works for the people who are patrons.
For sure.
Yeah.
I feel like that's definitely the space to bombard people. Like they're
Yeah,
literally
maybe.
paying for you to
Yeah, you would
give them
think
as
so.
much,
Yeah,
you know,
true.
information as possible. But it's
Yeah.
really cool. It's something I've looked into for a long time.
Mm.
I still don't know too much about it, but like, what are your sort of, I think they call them perks, right? Like for
Mm.
each thing.
Yeah.
So what are you
Yeah.
offering?
Yeah. So there are different tiers. And yeah, so some of it is like discounts on
Mm,
merch.
sick.
Some of it is access to exclusive merch entirely, so stuff that won't be for sale anywhere else.
Mm,
Um, and I just the other day launched a giveaway, so I'm gonna go sign test pressing,
hell yeah.
um, which people seemed happy about. And also a little, yeah, like I want to offer actually kind of my any advice or critiques on other people's music. If
Oh,
anyone
that's
wanted,
cool too.
if anyone wanted to share their music, I'd be happy to take a deep dive into it and give my thoughts. Talk about anything that they're concerned with or want help with. I can't remember what else. There's quite a bit. Yeah, there's many more things. I'm just struggling to remember what they are at the moment. Um,
Amazing.
and I'm always like prepared to add more stuff. If anyone has any suggestions, then I'd be more than happy to look into it and
For
add
sure.
it. Yeah.
With Patreon, does it give people sort of area to message you directly with sort of like
Yeah. Hmm.
suggestions and stuff like you're saying?
Well, there's a Discord
Oh,
community,
true.
so I can be messaged on there. We can chat on there. I think you can also directly message me via the interface of Patreon.
Mm.
Um, but I haven't used that feature yet. But yeah, I think it seems like an easy way to connect with people in a slightly different way to someone just emailing me or messaging on Instagram or Twitter or anything.
True.
Um, but yeah, I would love it to become a sort of a really nice community of people who can just like hit me up or hit each other up, whenever.
For
Um,
sure.
yeah,
Seems like a really great space just to, yeah, like you're saying, build a community and stuff. And anybody who's listening, please go check out his Patreon, like a little plug, you know,
yeah, yeah,
because it seems cool, man. And I'm
yeah.
sure
Thank
you're going to
you.
be
Yeah,
sharing music as you're writing it, like for the new album.
yeah. I mean, that's the other thing. I'd love it to become like the main place where the new album is documented.
Amazing.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Amazing. Yeah. I just wanted for the last part get into
Hmm.
some more of those fan questions that I got for this.
Oh,
Um,
yeah, cool. Wow.
well, there's two main ones. We already
Okay.
touched on a bunch of them. Like a lot of people were just wondering if you're working on new music and what the next
Oh,
album's going to
okay.
be.
Right.
Got quite a few messages about that.
Mm.
Um, but one of them that I also wanted to know was like sort of what are you listening to at the moment? I know that me and you went back and
Mm.
forth a little bit a few months back about like Delta Sleep, and you you
Oh
you had seen them
yeah.
live at a festival and stuff, and I posted about them.
Yeah.
Um,
No
but is
man, they were
like,
awesome. Yeah.
were they? Yeah, I want to see them
They
live
were.
so
Yeah,
bad.
yeah. Yeah, they were
Um,
sick.
do you have anybody that you're currently like listening to on repeat at all?
Um, at the moment, I'm listening to quite a lot of Ryx,
Oh
RYX.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
nice.
Yeah. I love his production actually. Um, the way his vocals floating beautifully on top of quite sparse like nylon string guitar
Hmm.
and other like ambient sounds. I think it's just really lush.
Yeah,
Um,
his
so
collab
yeah.
with Oliver too is really really good.
Oh yeah.
Hmm.
Oceans, is it?
Yeah,
Ocean, yeah.
I remember when that came out, I was so surprised because like I'd known Ryx for a while, like not his whole discography, but I had some of his like his hits on my playlist.
Yeah, like Berlin.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, okay.
And then all of a sudden him and Olfer do a track and I'm like, what? Like this is kind of sick, and it ended up being really, really good. So
yeah, he's great. And similarly, Novo Amor. Like I'm really loving that sort of folk inspired kind of songwriting, but with like really interesting production choices, and like quite an otherworldly feel.
Amazing.
So I'm loving that kind of stuff at the moment.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's so good. And I guess you haven't had too much new stuff come out, but even just from your back catalog, you can hear even that inspiration. Then has it always been this sort of music?
Yeah, I think so. Like I've always loved. I mean, when I very first started writing music as Message to Bears, I was basically listening to a lot of post-rock, like Explosions in the Sky, but I was also listening to a hell of a lot of the first Jose Gonzalez album.
Okay.
And I don't know why I wanted to merge those two things a little bit, with the like open tuning, finger picking, but with a sort of heavily instrumental and more like film-like feel. So yeah, there's always been like a sort of folky songwriter influence along with the more ambient or post-rock kind of elements.
For sure.
Yeah,
you're making it work, man. It sounds so good.
So
inspiring. Like makes me want to hike to it and like but not have to listen to outdoorsy folk music. I get to listen to sort of ambient folk music, and I think it's so good. It's something that I've been noticing a lot of people are sort of gravitating towards lately, is this sort of thing, and it hasn't really been explored all that much, honestly, at least not in like a big way, like the way you're doing. Obviously you've been doing it for a long time, but other than like you and I can't even think of anybody else, it's pretty cool. But the last fan question that I got was, how do you typically deal with burnout? Because it's a thing that a lot of, us artists, especially the isolated artists, go through,
That's a good question. It's definitely something I struggle with. I don't know how best to deal with it. What I do is, I think knowing when to take a break is super important.
Yeah.
So when you starting to feel even slightly insane, just stop what you're doing. And then, because I think typically when you're working at a level that will leave you burnt out, you're neglecting certain things. So you might neglect your diet a bit, or even just hydration. So sometimes I think just getting those things in check and getting away from your screen or even your instrument, if it depends what you're burnt out by. There's nothing like a big walk outside can have a tremendous impact on that. But yeah, burnout is tough, and it's like you said, I think it's something that probably most people deal with at one point or another.
Yeah,
and it can be tough, for sure. But yeah, especially like working alone, you've got no one to like bounce ideas off necessarily, or no one to say, hey, we need to take a break now.
Exactly.
It's a good question.
For sure, yeah. It often, burnout feels like you'll never get through it, I'm never going to write a song ever again, and can't write anything right. But
you just need a break. You gotta allow yourself that space to, away from something that, even if it's super important for you, just gotta let it go for a while.
It can wait.
It can wait. Yeah.
For sure. I guess we're ending it off on a sort of somber note or something.
No, it's all good.
But I just wanted to say thank you for,
thank you
being on this. It means a lot, and it was really fun.
Yeah, man. It's a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot for listening to this episode of We All Speak in Poems. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to give us a thumbs up or subscribe. And if you'd like to support Message to Bears, please be sure to head over to his Patreon and check it out.